Does anyone else remember Marvel shows pre-Disney Plus? Because I sure do. I finally finished watching Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 7 seasons, 136 episodes. Woo! This show aired on network television from 2013 to 2019, cranking out 22 episodes a season. The last 2 seasons, though, were only 13 episodes. You know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a really interesting product that we saw evolve over the course of 7 years on network television and into an era where a streaming service was implemented into things. I tell you though, these pre-Disney Plus Marvel shows hit different. They were very well produced and very tautly paced, and they, for a while there, were actually tying into the MCU films and what was going on in them. At a certain point, though, this show kind of got retconned and just kind of became its own thing. That kind of started around season 5. Seasons 5, 6, and 7 were definitely the low points of the show. Season 5 is where it feels the show got retconned. It basically turned into a mix of Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. I'm glad they made Yo-Yo a full-time cast member that season. I mean, she had already been coming and going from the show so much, and her and Mac have a thing going on, and they're both really great together. These two. I can't be the only one that thinks that the Coulson and May romance seemed a little forced, yeah? Season 6 takes things into some interesting territory.
The death of everything.
Coulson?
We don't know where they're from, but we have a new target that looks exactly like Phil Coulson.
God, Deke is such an awful character. Just, no. No, dude. Whatever happened to this chick? They, cuffed her and took her away to be placed in a holding cell there in the middle of season 6, and then we just never saw her again. Season 7 is jumping all over the place. They're jumping through time, and just, it feels like the writers were kind of trying to wrap things up, to some degree for us here. The final season dropped in the middle of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic on Disney Plus. So that was a very different avenue for this show to take, considering where it started and where it was there at the end. Fitz and Simmons were really the glue that held the human core to this show. I mean, you just can't help but root for them. They're just so perfect together. I love my dude Enoch. Oh, Enoch, our favorite little Chronicon. Also, what happened to this dude? Remember? He was one of the Inhumans that they discovered along with Yo-Yo. They were calling him up for missions, and then after a particular mission, they just never called him again, and we never saw or heard anything about his character again. It's really kind of too bad that Marvel didn't utilize what they have here. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had the potential to run the MCU outside of the movies. You have this organization operating from the shadows, and all these characters that we spent 7 seasons getting to know, who are all an integral part of the way things work. It was a great premise that, like the MCU itself, eventually reached a point where it's like, how much more can we go on here? I mean, once they could time travel and the multiverse was brought into things, that's when all the stakes went out the window. It's like, all right, well, they could just continue the show forever now. They could just keep bringing Coulson back in all these different forms like they already have been. It's just got to end at some point. And it's too bad that this show kind of just fizzled in the public eye and seemed to just kind of be forgotten about there in the last few seasons. I mean, they spent 7 seasons building up this backstory of this organization and all these characters. Avengers Doomsday comes out this year, and it's kind of a shame that not a single person from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be in that. Not a single one of these characters from 7 seasons of television. Overall, I very much enjoyed my time with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I had a kick-ass time watching it. The first 3 seasons were great. Top-notch television. Season 4 was still good, but was starting to get a little shaky. Seasons 5, 6, and 7 were not as good, but they were still good. I still enjoyed the last 3 seasons, even though the writing was getting a little ridiculous. But, I was definitely still enjoying it. I wouldn't have continued watching it if I wasn't enjoying myself. I'm going to give Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a 7.5 out of 10. It was a fun ride. When you spend 7 seasons with all these characters, you know, you're kind of sad it's over, you know, at the end. It's kind of like when I finished Succession a couple of years ago. I was like, oh, I'm kind of sad it's over now. Next up for me is the very short-lived Agent Carter series that ties into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually in more ways than I was aware of. Yes, Peggy Carter had her own show. A lot of people forgot about that. All right, I'm going to check this one out and report back when I'm done. See you then.